Section 4 of The Girl with the Golden Eyes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Martin Geeson. The Girl with the Golden Eyes by Honore de Balzac. Translated by Ellen Marriage. Section 4. De Marsay was not impulsive. Any other young man would have obeyed his impulse to obtain at once some information about a girl who realized so fully the most luminous ideas ever expressed upon women in the poetry of the East, but too experienced to compromise his good fortune. He had told his coachman to continue along the Rue Saint-Lazare and carry him back to his house. The next day, his confidential valet, Laurent by name, as cunning a fellow as the Frontin of the old comedy, waited in the vicinity of the house inhabited by the unknown for the hour at which letters were distributed. In order to be able to spy at his ease and hang about the house, he had followed the example of those police officers who seek a good disguise, and bought up cast-off clothes of an Auvergnat, the appearance of whom he sought to imitate. When the postman who went the round of the Rue Saint-Lazare that morning passed by, Laurent feigned to be a porter unable to remember the name of a person to whom he had to deliver a parcel, and consulted the postman. Deceived at first by appearances, this personage, so picturesque in the midst of Parisian civilization, informed him that the house in which the girl with the golden eyes dwelt belonged to Don Hijos, Marquis de San Real, grandee of Spain. Naturally, it was not with the Marquis that the Auvergnat was concerned. "My parcel," he said, "is for the Marquise." "She is away," replied the postman. "Her letters are forwarded to London." "Then the Marquise is not a young girl who—" "Ha!" said the postman, interrupting the valet de chambre and observing him attentively. "You are as much a porter as I'm." Laurent chinked some pieces of gold before the functionary, who began to smile. "Come, here's the name of your quarry," he said, taking from his leather wallet a letter bearing a London stamp, upon which the address to Mademoiselle Paquita Valdez, Rue Saint-Lazare, Hôtel San Real, Paris, was written in long, fine characters, which spoke of a woman's hand. "Could you tap a bottle of Chablis with a few dozen oysters and a filet sauté with mushrooms to follow it?" said Laurent, who wished to win the postman's valuable friendship. "At 9:30, when my round is finished." "Where?" "At the corner of the Rue de la Chaussée d'Antin and the Rue Neuve des Mathurins, at the Puits Sans Vin," said Laurent. "Hark ye, my friend," said the postman, when he rejoined the valet an hour after this encounter, "if your master is in love with the girl, he's in for a famous task. I doubt you'll not succeed in seeing her. In the 10 years that I've been postman in Paris, I have seen plenty of different kinds of doors, but I can tell you, and no fear of being called a liar by any of my comrades, there never was a door so mysterious as Monsieur de Saint Real's. No one can get into the house without the Lord knows what counterword. And notice, it has been selected on purpose between a courtyard and a garden, to avoid any communication with other houses. The porter is an old Spaniard who never speaks a word of French, but peers at people as Vidocq might, to see if they are not thieves. If a lover, a thief, or you, I make no comparisons, could get the better of this first wicket, well, in the first hall, which is shut by a glazed door, you would run across a butler surrounded by lackeys, an old joker more savage and surly even than the porter. If anyone gets past the porter's lodge, my butler comes out, waits for you at the entrance, and puts you through a cross-examination like a criminal. That has happened to me, a mere postman. He took me for an eavesdropper in disguise, he said, laughing at his nonsense. As for the servants, don't hope to get aught out of them. I think they are mutes. No one in the neighbourhood knows the colour of their speech. I don't know what wages they can pay them to keep them from talk and drink. The fact is, they are not to be got at, whether because they are afraid of being shot, or that they have some enormous sum to lose in the case of an indiscretion. If your master is fond enough of Mademoiselle Paquita Valdez to surmount all these obstacles, he certainly won't triumph over Dona Concha Marialva, the duenna who accompanies her, and would put her under her petticoats sooner than leave her. The two women look as if they were sewn to one another. All that you say, worthy postman, went on Laurent, after having drunk off his wine, confirms me in what I have learned before. Upon my word, I thought they were making fun of me. The fruiterer opposite told me that of nights they let loose dogs whose food is hung up on stakes just out of their reach. These cursed animals think, therefore, that anyone likely to come in has designs on their victuals, and would tear one to pieces. You will tell me one might throw them down pieces, but it seems they have been trained to touch nothing except from the hand of the porter. The porter of the Baron de Nucingen, whose garden joins at the top that of the Hotel San Real, told me the same thing, replied the postman. Good, my master knows him, said Laurent to himself. Do you know, he went on, leering at the postman, I serve a master who is a rare man, and if he took it into his head to kiss the sole of the foot of an empress, she would have to give in to him. If he had need of you, which is what I wish for you, for he is generous, could one count on you? Lord, Monsieur Laurent, my name is Moinot. My name is written exactly like moineau, magpie, Moinot, Moinot. Exactly, said Laurent. I live at number 11, Rue des Trois Frères, on the 5th floor, went on Moinot. I have a wife and 4 children. If what you want of me doesn't transgress the limits of my conscience and my official duties, you understand, I am your man. You are an honest fellow, said Laurent, shaking his hand. Paquita Valdez is no doubt the mistress of the Marquis de San Real, the friend of King Ferdinand. Only an old Spanish mummy of 80 years is capable of taking such precautions, said Henri, when his valet de chambre had related the result of his researches. Monsieur, said Laurent, unless he takes a balloon, no one can get into that hotel. You are a fool. Is it necessary to get into the hotel to have Paquita, when Paquita can get out of it? But, sir, the duenna. We will shut her up for a day or two, your duenna. So we shall have Paquita, said Laurent, rubbing his hands. Rascal, answered Henri. I shall condemn you to the concha if you carry your impudence so far as to speak so of a woman before she has become mine. Turn your thoughts to dressing me. I am going out. Henri remained for a moment plunged in joyous reflections. Let us say it to the praise of women, he obtained all those whom he deigned to desire. And what could one think of a woman having no lover, who should have known how to resist a young man armed with beauty, which is the intelligence of the body, with intelligence, which is a grace of the soul, armed with moral force and fortune, which are the only two real powers. Yet, in triumphing with such ease, de Marsay was bound to grow weary of his triumphs. Thus, for about 2 years, he had grown very weary indeed. And diving deep into the sea of pleasures, he brought back more grit than pearls. Thus had he come, like potentates, to implore of chance some obstacle to surmount, some enterprise which should ask the employment of his dormant moral and physical strength. Although Paquita Valdes presented him with a marvelous concentration of perfections which he had only yet enjoyed in detail, the attraction of passion was almost nil with him. Constant satiety had weakened in his heart the sentiment of love. Like old men and people disillusioned, he had no longer anything but extravagant caprices, ruinous tastes, fantasies, which, once satisfied, left no pleasant memory in his heart. Amongst young people, love is the finest of the emotions. It makes the life of the soul blossom. It nourishes by its solar power the finest inspirations and their great thoughts. The first fruits in all things have a delicious savor. Amongst men, love becomes a passion. Strength leads to abuse. Amongst old men it turns to vice. Impotence tends to extremes. Henri was at once an old man, a man, and a youth. To afford him the feelings of a real love, he needed, like Lovelace, a Clarissa Harlowe. Without the magic lustre of that unattainable pearl, he could only have either passions rendered acute by some Parisian vanity, or set determinations with himself to bring such and such a woman to such and such a point of corruption, or else adventures which stimulated his curiosity. The report of Laurent, his valet de chambre, had just given an enormous value to the girl with the golden eyes. It was a question of doing battle with some secret enemy who seemed as dangerous as he was cunning, and to carry off the victory, all the forces which Henri could dispose of would be useful. He was about to play in that eternal old comedy which will be always fresh, and the characters in which are an old man, a young girl, and a lover. Don Hijos, Paquita, de Marsay. If Laurent was the equal of Figaro, the duenna seemed incorruptible. Thus the living play was supplied by chance with a stronger plot than it had ever been by dramatic author. But then is not chance too a man of genius? It must be a cautious game. said Henri to himself. Well, said Paul de Manerville as he entered the room, how are we getting on? I have come to breakfast with you. So be it, said Henri. You won't be shocked if I make my toilette before you. How absurd! We take so many things from the English just now that we might well become as great prudes and hypocrites as themselves, said Henri. Laurent had set before his master such a quantity of utensils, so many different articles of such elegance, that Paul could not refrain from saying, "But you will take a couple of hours over that." "No," said Henri, 2 hours and a half. "Well, then, since we are by ourselves and can say what we like, explain to me why a man as superior as yourself, for you are superior, should affect to exaggerate a foppery which cannot be natural. Why spend 2 hours and a half in adorning yourself, when it is sufficient to spend 1/4 of an hour in your bath, to do your hair in 2 minutes, and to dress? There, tell me your system." "I must be very fond of you, my good dunce, to confide such high thoughts to you," said the young man, who was at that moment having his feet rubbed with a soft brush lathered with English soap. "Have I not the most devoted attachment to you?" replied Paul de Manerville. "And do I not like you because I know your superiority? You must have noticed, if you are in the least capable of observing any moral fact, that women love fops," went on de Marsay, without replying in any way to Paul's declaration, except by a look. "Do you know why women love fops? My friend, fops are the only men who take care of themselves. Now, to take excessive care of oneself, does it not imply that one takes care in oneself of what belongs to another? The man who does not belong to himself is precisely the man on whom women are keen. Love is essentially a thief. I say nothing about that excess of niceness to which they are so devoted. Do you know of any woman who has had a passion for a sloven, even if he were a remarkable man? If such a fact has occurred, we must put it to the account of those morbid affections of the breeding woman, mad fancies which float through the minds of everybody. On the other hand, I have seen most remarkable people left in the lurch because of their carelessness. A fop, who is concerned about his person, is concerned with folly, with petty things. And what is a woman? A petty thing, a bundle of follies. With 2 words said to the winds, can you not make her busy for 4 hours? She is sure that the fop will be occupied with her, seeing that he has no mind for great things. She will never be neglected for glory, ambition, politics, art, those prostitutes who for her are rivals. Then fops have the courage to cover themselves with ridicule in order to please a woman, and her heart is full of gratitude towards the man who is ridiculous for love. In fine, a fop can be no fop unless he is right in being one. It is women who bestow that rank. The fop is love's colonel. He has his victories, his regiment of women at his command. My dear fellow, in Paris everything is known, and a man cannot be a fop there gratis. You, who have only one woman, and who perhaps are right to have but one, try to act the fop. You will not even become ridiculous, you will be dead. You will become a foregone conclusion, one of those men condemned inevitably to do one and the same thing. You will come to signify folly as inseparably as Monsieur de Lafayette signifies America, Monsieur de Talleyrand diplomacy, Desaugiers song, Monsieur de Ségur romance. If they once forsake their own line, people no longer attach any value to what they do. So foppery, my friend Paul, is the sign of an incontestable power over the female folk. A man who is loved by many women passes for having superior qualities, and then, poor fellow, it is a question who shall have him. But do you think it is nothing to have the right of going into a drawing room, of looking down at people from over your cravat or through your eyeglass, and of despising the most superior of men should he wear an old-fashioned waistcoat? Laurent, you are hurting me. After breakfast, Paul, we will go to the Tuileries and see the adorable girl with the golden eyes. End of section 4. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.